This is a celebration of a decade of discovery at Mission Bay. 10 years ago, the Mission Bay campus consisted of one lone building with a handful of researchers and a lot of boxes. Today, the campus is the hub of a collaborative and growing ecosystem that is transforming science into better health worldwide. 10 years ago, UC San Francisco officially opened Genentech Hall, where we are today, the first building at Mission Bay. To mark this anniversary, we're celebrating those who have played a key role in making Mission Bay what it is today, and who gave both UC San Francisco and the city and county of San Francisco a treasure. Looking across Mission Bay today, it's hard to remember what this area used to look like, but I have a clear recollection. I did my residency here at UCSF, lived up on Potrero Hill, and my husband used to try and talk me out of running past this neighborhood. It was not a place you wanted to spend a lot of time. It was a desolate region of abandoned railroad yards and empty warehouses. Back then, UC was bursting at the seams at our Parnassus campus. The university began looking for places to grow, and San Francisco was not hitting the top of that list. But a group of smart, dedicated people put their heads together and decided otherwise. These people, some of whom are with us this morning, were committed to keeping UC San Francisco in San Francisco. It took bold steps by UCSF and by the city to make this a reality, and all that boldness has paid off. As a result of their work and the work and dedication of those who have followed in their footsteps, today we're standing on a campus that is home to 3 Nobel laureates, 2 MacArthur Genius Grant Fellows, 1 past, 1 present, and hundreds of renowned scientists who are among the most prolific in the world, producing scientific discoveries in cancer, neuroscience, cardiovascular research, and many, many more. Together with colleagues on our other campuses, these researchers are the core of UCSF's $1 billion integrated clinical and bioscience research enterprise and the nation's largest public health research university. This research is transforming not only the future of health, but how we train the future leaders in health. Around us is a growing community of venture capital firms, entrepreneurs, and bioscience companies that either spun out of UCSF or chose to locate here to collaborate with us, so they can translate these discoveries into new products and therapies that will improve health across the globe. We're also neighbors with the Gladstone Institute, and if you look down the road, the San Francisco Giants, current world champs. This is now a nationally renowned hub of innovation in bioscience, and every week we get requests from other cities, universities, businesses, and embassies to tour this campus so they can understand the secret sauce that makes this work. This morning you'll be hearing from some of the people who helped make Mission Bay what it is today. I also just want to acknowledge there's many friends who made Mission Bay happen. There's too many people to name names, so we just really appreciate everything everyone's done to make this a reality. And I also see the campus's dear friend Barbara Osher, so thank you for coming. Let me start. I have this distinguished lineup here to my right, so I'm done speaking now. And let me just first introduce Lieutenant Governor Gavin Newsom, who during his tenure as mayor brought City Hall together with industry to find ways to attract biosciences to San Francisco.
All right, so thank you. This is strange. I'm I'll yeah, all right, that's better. Sue, well, happy anniversary, everybody, and especially to you up there. You're the only person who applauded. Thank you for recognizing. And Sue, let me thank you for your stewardship and your leadership and your faith and constancy in this vision that was laid before us well over a decade ago. To all the members of the Board of Supervisors that worked hand in glove with then Mayor Willie Brown, to all of the extraordinary and enlightened lobbyists that worked hard on behalf of UCSF and on behalf of the developer Catellus at the time, to Michael Bishop and his stewardship of that process, to all of you that are assembled here today, congratulations and thank you for this vision. Thank you for your excellence. Thank you for your example. I've been spending a lot of time recently with Governor Brown and not least of which getting a good history lesson last week at the UC Board of Regents about history of the Roman Empire, something along those lines. And so it got me thinking that I needed to brush up a little bit on my history. And so I decided to go to Greece. He's going to Rome, I'll go to Greece. And a wonderful comment that Pericles made to the Athenians, the first great mayor Lee, who said, "We do not imitate," Pericles said. He says, "for we are a model to others." And I think of that in the context of the model you have created here for not only the rest of the state, but for the rest of the nation, at a time where we need to be investing in our engines of growth, at a time when we need to reconcile the opportunity to read our own history, not just the history of others, and to begin to square the reality of a world where I left this morning at 5.6% unemployment rate in Marin County, and yesterday came back from an area just outside of Imperial County that today has 26.6% unemployment. 5.6, 26.6. A state still with 9.8% unemployment with 1.8 million people that are actively searching for work. The point I'm making is we had a formula for success in this state and in this nation. And in so many ways, whether we know it intentionally or not, you have reignited and reinvested in that formula. Its foundation being education, infrastructure, an aggressive framework of an open immigration policy. If you're not conveying talent from UC, you're getting first-round draft choices from around the rest of the world, the best and the brightest you're able to attract here. The notion of robust public-private partnerships as it relates to research and development, and the benefits from National Institute of Health, obviously that go directly here at UCSF, but all of the other benefits of attracting that wealth because of the extraordinary talent that you have assembled. And so I say that to only say this, that whether we know the intention or whether or not we've stumbled upon it, I do believe in every respect your model is an exceptional one. Final point, by time I know is limited. I want to also thank Reg Kelly, Dennis Conahan and others, and my old staff, because in 2004, we had a big biotech conference out here, and the front page of the San Francisco Chronicle was a headline, not exaggerating, where we celebrated the protesters of that conference. There was actually a resolution in front of the Board of Supervisors the next day condemning the conference and celebrating the protesters. It already had, I think, 9 out of the 11 members of the Board of Supervisors that supported it. We had a perception problem. Was it any wonder, as Sue was just saying, there was no real biotech presence here in 2003, 2004. There was only one company here in San Francisco, the birthplace of biotech and life science. So we had to change perception. And we were able to put together a Mayor's Biotech Advisory Committee with many of you that are assembled here today to start leaning into this. We got aggressive as it relates to another problem beyond just perception, the second P, which was the challenge with parking, and changed some of the parking ratios here to allow a little bit more ease and access. Third thing was permitting, and we put together a great team in our office to deal with public-private transactions related to biotech industry. And the final one was payroll, the fourth P. We had a payroll tax problem here. We were charging it. Folks just South Bay weren't. So they'd come right to the border, but they didn't want to cross that border. And so we created this tax exemption, which at the time was historic for San Francisco to actually cut, not raise taxes. And we started to reconcile those 4 Ps. And I know Mayor Lee and others are going to come up to celebrate all the great work he's done and the team's done to bring back biotech back to its place of birth. But I remember I left, we had about 73 companies from that one, and the partnerships with QB3 and sharing overhead with our BioSF program and the incubator network that Reg put together with Fibrogen and with, of course, Dennis and the economic development folks. I just think those are wonderful things and wonderful examples, and for me, wonderful memories, but also a wonderful framework for expanding this model across the rest of the state. And we hope, because of your great work, across the rest of the country. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Lieutenant Governor. I remember well you give me a hard time about South San Francisco and Genentech, so we've come a long way. I now am very happy to introduce Mayor Ed Lee, who's become a passionate advocate for further developing San Francisco as the city of innovation and a wonderful partner and friend to UCSF. Mayor Lee.
Thank you, Chancellor. Just briefly, the the history is worth repeating, is what our lieutenant governor has always said. And I need to remind people, too, what I was doing at that time. I was the little DPW director when Gavin became mayor, and we were still doing something that Willie Brown had asked us to make sure we did right. In addition to the payroll tax exemption, we were also creating infrastructure at that time. We were working with developers to make sure that the infrastructure of Mission Bay was going to meet the standards that UC San Francisco and the biotech industry was saying in order to come here. It wasn't just one thing alone. It was a combination of many things. And investing in infrastructure at Mission Bay was an enormous task, something that we had to do public-privately because we didn't have all the money in city government. And we had to get rid of one of my favorite institutions, the golfing range, which we're sitting on right here. But as I was talking with former Governor Gray Davis, it was worth giving up. It was something that we did right in the city. Something that I am continuing to do is invest in infrastructure so that we can have that great foundation. Because as I recall, the discussions up there at that very crowded Parnassus campus was that people needed more space. And guess what? We've got that space here. But it isn't just for the fantastic 2,500 UC San Francisco faculty that's here. It's for the thousands of other people that are collaborating with them as they find these discoveries, whether it's the pharmaceutical companies, the other science companies. I just came back from another fantastic conference of mayors, Gavin, that they allowed me to head up a panel discussion on science, technology, engineering, and math. STEM is what we all call it in the vernacular these days. That is the jealousy of all the other mayors that when they hear about the story of Mission Bay, they're all trying to create their own Mission Bay in their cities. And they're wanting to work with all the universities and the talent, because what we've done here is not only the physical infrastructure, not only creating conditions for businesses to be successful, but we found that we should invest in the very talent that's here and expand on that talent. So it is the Nobel laureates, it is the faculty and the clinicians and the postdoctorate students that are here, and they're working with people across all other disciplines, startups, technology. You hear these great stories, and I've seen them myself when we walk in, and people are no longer using these small microscopes, but they're looking at 3D technology from Autodesk, right, Reg? And we're looking at cells in 4 different ways, expanding, deepening all of the science. This is the movement that we have. This is our new economy. This is the collaboration that's going on. So we have a lot to celebrate in our city, whether it's the Giants, hopefully the Niners, even more celebration. But I'd say the people and the talent is really the attraction that brings not only me here to Mission Bay, but we keep having cake and champagne for very good reason. We have milestones to celebrate. The talent is here. UC San Francisco is a great core to attract this. And we are inviting others in the world to establish their headquarters here. We're no longer satisfied just being a regional leader here. It is world innovation talent that we're drawing here to San Francisco, and we're glad to do it and support it with UC San Francisco. Thank you very much. Congratulations to everybody.
Thank you, Mayor Lee. You heard Lieutenant Governor Newsom mention QB3, the Quantitative Biology Group, and the great work of Reg Kelly. So I now want to introduce former Governor Gray Davis, who is the man responsible for the funding that started QB3. Governor Davis.
Thank you, Chancellor. Thank you for bringing us together today, and it's really a wonderful milestone, 10 years. I want to, Mayor Lee, I just want to add my comments. As a passionate golfer, I did not like to see the driving range give way, but I said the property has been put to its highest and best use, namely a magnet for the life science industry. So happily you have to go out of the city to hit golf balls, Mayor, but you got a lot of great golf courses here. Let me thank the Chancellor again for her vision in bringing us all together to celebrate the work and the vision of herself and Chancellor Bishop and Chancellor Kelly, And the two mayors that have spoken here, Lieutenant Governor Newsom and Mayor Lee and Mayor Brown, all of those folks are the reason that Mission Bay exists. As Mayor Lee said, this was either an unused railroad yard or a driving range, whatever it was. It wasn't Mission Bay. And it wasn't the epicenter of innovation in the life sciences, which it has become in a very short period of time. How did that happen? It happened because of the visions of City Hall, the visions of UCSF. It happened because a great university, UCSF, was a magnet to entrepreneurs, to venture capitalists, to the life sciences, large and small. And their collective mission is to shorten the pipeline between academic innovation and marketplace solutions. If you can put a product on the market in 2 years rather than 10 years, if you can come up with a medical breakthrough that delays the onset of cancer or allows people to live with prostate cancer, you have changed lives, you have changed the world. And I am convinced that Mission Bay, in a very short period of time, is going to have the same cachet as Silicon Valley, as Route 128, and it all happened because of the people on this stage, the people in the audience, and most of all, the people at UCSF. I want to just say a word about QB3. In 2000, in part because of the UC president, then Dick Atkinson, and in part because of the head of the Scripps Research Institute, I proposed the creation of 4 institutes of science and innovation. One of them, QB3, literally within footsteps of where we are right now. There's a door that leads to QB3. Chancellor, we have a little tiny sign, QB3. Can we just give a little more attention to QB3, which is right down the hall? QB3, in 2009, started to do research on a now publicly traded company, Amyris. It is now a $1 billion company in the biofuels industry, employing 300 people over in, across the bay in the city of Emeryville. That is what innovation can do for California. It can attract high-paying jobs, it can power technological and scientific breakthroughs, and it can keep us at the cutting edge of innovation. Now, just so you don't think all we're worried about is billion-dollar companies, QB3 also was the first part of the UC system to create a technical incubator, 62 companies, 280 jobs, $280 million raised. And Reg was telling me earlier, Chancellor, that a company from Moscow wants to come and join our incubator, but we're out of room, so we have to find more space for our incubator. So QB3 is a small part of a great vision that all of California should be proud of. And I just want to end with a little word about the secret sauce. The secret sauce in life sciences is the University of California at San Francisco. The secret sauce in innovation is the University of California. And I was meeting with the Fed chairman in 2000, Alan Greenspan, and he said, Governor, you have something no one else has. You have 13 research universities, then 12, now 13. 10 at the University of California, a little place down the road I went to called Stanford, which, by the way, was never in the top 10 when I was playing. When I was at Stanford, we lost every football game my first year. But thanks to Coach Harborough, doing pretty well now. Thank you. Go Niners. But Stanford, SC, and Caltech. So we have 13 universities that really can invent the future. And he said to me, just invest in your research universities and you will create whole new economies that you can't even imagine. That is what Mission Bay will do in the life sciences, and that's what UC will continue to do, keeping us at the cutting edge of innovation. And trust me, in a world where everyone is outsourcing jobs, the best guarantor against outsourcing is to be in the innovation business, because you can't outsource a job until it's created. And we do nothing in California but create job after job after job. I'd like to see if we could keep a few manufacturing jobs here. That's our next assignment to Lieutenant Governor and Mayor. But at least we invent them and we create them. So feel good about what happened. I feel good about our small part. We put $145 million in the Gladstone Institute. And I'm delighted they have a Nobel laureate. And we put a lot of money, $100 million into QB3. It is very easy, this is my last thought, it is very easy for public officials to focus on problems of the moment. It is much harder to make a case for a better future and to argue for setting money aside to create that future. But when you see what happened with the collective vision of the people on this stage in Mission Bay, and you see the global attention it's getting, you realize that preparing the next generation and investing in the future is really what California is about. So everyone should give themselves a round of applause. This is a great day. Thank every single member of UCSF for what you've done. You are the magnet that made this possible.
Thank you. Thank you, Governor. And now it's a particular pleasure for me to introduce Mike Bishop. Mike is one of UCSF's great. Oh, go ahead and clap for Mike. Go for it. For those of you who don't know, he was one of the co-winners of the Nobel Prize in 1989 for his discovery of normal genes that can become cancerous, setting the stage for targeted therapies. And he went on to become Chancellor and my predecessor, but it was Mike's vision and his leadership that made the move to Mission Bay possible. So, Mike?
Well, I couldn't help but notice that I'm the only male up here who's not in a suit. I think that reflects my return to the professoriate. So why did this all happen? Well, frankly, UCSF Mission Bay was not born of a specific vision. It was born out of stark necessity. In the late 1980s and early 90s, it had become painfully clear to us from repeated strategic planning that UCSF was in dire need of additional research space. But we were landlocked at Parnassus Heights. Our facilities were not on a par with our esteemed counterparts. Our ability to do new things was severely compromised. The example I always remember is that we had to take a pass on the Human Genome Project because we didn't have a space to do anything about it, even though 2 of the 3 essential technologies were invented at UCSF. So we were at risk of failing our mission and of losing our hard-won esteem. So the hunt was on. We looked at the Presidio long before it became a national park. We looked at Brisbane. We looked at what I thought was a runway for the Oakland airport, but was actually a development of some sort. And then we struck gold here with the help of the city government, the mayor, Mayor Brown, and especially with BALSA, to which Chancellor Desmond-Hellmann referred, a remarkable alliance of community leaders who worked in an exemplary private-public partnership with UCSF to acquire the land, to get a master plan, and to get this thing going. So once the opportunity was here, then we knew what to do with it. First of all, since this site was rather removed from the then nerve center of the campus at Parnassus, we knew that in one fell swoop, we would have to create a critical mass of science, featuring some of our most creative and adventuresome scientists. And second, we would have to create the opportunity to do new things and in new ways. And I think it's generally agreed that we've succeeded at both. Within a year of its opening, our first research building, Genentech Hall, was filled with a cohesive community of adventuresome, creative scientists who organized themselves in ways that would create and facilitate new alliances across disciplinary boundaries. And second, recreated the opportunity to do new things in new ways. And to mention just a few so you can understand how the face of this place of UCSF has been enhanced by UCSF Mission Bay. There is, of course, QB3, which was my first example before I heard from my predecessors at the podium here. Our initiative in quantitative biology, which is a consortium with ourselves UC Berkeley and UC Santa Cruz that brings chemistry, physics, engineering, computer science, biomedical science, clinical scientists together to solve the problems of human health. We have facilities here now that interweave basic science, clinical research, and even patient care in three major areas, three major adversaries of human health: cardiovascular disease, cancer, and neurological disease. Every one of these has at least a building to itself in which a unique community has formed. We have, of course, the new hospital, which was beyond our wildest dreams when we first began planning Mission Bay, but now looks so obviously to be an essential part of the mix here, because it will complete the continuum of bench to bedside that we want so badly to foster. There have been diagnostic pioneers here. The SARS virus was identified here with an elegantly simple technique in about 6 hours. And finally, as you've heard, we've created the ability to attract more effectively and to interact with more effectively biotech and big pharma. So I think, simply put, Mission Bay has made it possible for UCSF never again to be behind the curve. In fact, if we use it well, we should remain consistently ahead of the curve, which is exactly where we want to be. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Chancellor Bishop. I particularly am pleased that you pointed out that we've been talking about science, but increasingly not only basic science, but translational science, focus on diagnostics, and you'll even see some people with white coats and stethoscopes around the Mission Bay campus most recently. And I also want to mention that we're bringing global health sciences to Mission Bay within the next 2 years. So I'd now like to introduce Mark Laureate, who's leading the next chapter in the history of Mission Bay, the development of the UCSF Medical Center and the UCSF Benioff Children's Hospital at Mission Bay. Mark?
Thank you, Sue. Just late last week, a first-grade girl was admitted to UCSF Benioff Children's Hospital on Parnassus with a brain tumor, a malignant glioblastoma, as it turns out. That girl had resection of the tumor, but faces a very, very difficult course and a very poor prognosis. That little girl is the reason that just 100 yards from here across 16th Street, we are building a new children's, women's, and cancer hospital so that future children, future adults, future individuals who face the scourge of these diseases have hope. Now, what we're building across the street is absolutely spectacular. It will be the state-of-the-art children's, women's, and cancer hospital. There'll be spaces for families to stay in the rooms with their children. There'll be a variety of entertainment and education options for families spending time in the facility. The safety features that are built in are above anything else internationally. And of course, we have the most advanced electronic medical record system that will be part of that facility. But again, the reason we're building that 289-bed hospital is for that little girl and for all the patients who will receive their care here. As Chancellor Desmond-Hellmann mentioned, we're already beginning to establish a clinical presence here at Mission Bay. We have our cardiovascular center just to the north of us. We have a very robust orthopedics institute that I've used myself. We have a growing presence for children's and obstetrics and other services here. And within the next 5 years, this will be a bustling clinical environment. February 1st, 2015, we will begin seeing patients in the new Children's Hospital and Women's Hospital and Cancer Hospital across the street. I just want to make a comment about the building of that hospital. It took enormous courage for a lot of people, from Chancellor Bishop to endorse proceeding with a $1.5 billion project. without the prospect of state funds. But we undertook that project with the encouragement of many in our community who said, dream big, go for something bigger than you think you can afford. And we are now seeing coming to life right before us a project built with debt from the medical center, but mostly with philanthropic support from our community. And it's a great testament to San Francisco in the generosity and the vision of the community in San Francisco that they would be willing to support something at the magnitude that they have. And I guarantee to them, and I'm confident, that that investment will pay off many-fold, not only for the little girls with glioblastoma, but for others who come here over time. So the hope of that hospital is that linked with the research on this side of the street, that we will conquer glioblastoma and other cancers. We will deal with cardiovascular disease, neurologic disease. Maybe we'll do it even before a person is born. That's the hope. I will just end by quoting someone who's been very generous and very important to us, Mark Benioff, whose name is on our Children's Hospital. And Mark Benioff said, people tend to overestimate what they can accomplish in 1 year, but tend to underestimate what can be accomplished in 10. And when you look at this campus, including that hospital, it's incredible how far we have come in just this last 10 years. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mark. I also want to mention, as Lieutenant Governor Newsom said, it seemed amazing to think that we would attract the best of biotech and pharma and venture capital to this neighborhood 10 years ago. But I wanted to just recognize Chris Haskell, who's on the stage and who's here from Bayer. Not only have they come to Mission Bay, but they've put a very important site here at Mission Bay. So you're a great neighbor. Thank you for being here, Chris. Would you like to say a few words about why you decided to come to Mission Bay?
Thanks, Sue. First of all, I'd like to wish a happy anniversary to UCSF on behalf of Bayer and the rest of the Mission Bay community. This is an important milestone for UCSF, but I think and also an important day for everybody that's been involved with developing Mission Bay into a life science innovation hub. As we look back over the last 10 years, it's remarkable to think what's happened since the driving range and train yards, et cetera. But as we just heard, I think more importantly is to look at the next 10 years and think about, as we expand the bench to bedside here, what types of innovations, therapies, treatments we'll be able to put into play to impact human health over the next 10 years. My first experience with Mission Bay was actually 13 years ago when I was finishing up a postdoc at the Gladstone Institutes down at Hospital Curve, their old site down at the General Hospital. And my advisor, Izzy Charo, was taking the lead on planning the move of Gladstone from General up here to Mission Bay. And he described this nirvana of interaction between UCSF and research institutions and startup companies. And I thought to myself, I want to get back there someday. Someday my career path will take me back to Mission Bay, maybe for one of these little startups. Well, that sort of came true. So a couple years ago, when Bayer was opening its U.S. Innovation Center, this is our North American research headquarters, we were looking around at where to place ourselves. And we ended up just a couple blocks away from here in Mission Bay. In the end, the decision was really quite simple. Mission Bay has a really unique collection of places like the Gladstone, other research institutes. Reg Kelly and QB3 were instrumental in us coming back here. But really the anchor tenant, if you will, is UCSF, a world-class university. And in fact, our interaction with them was so important to us that at the time of moving in, we'd already signed a research master agreement with them with the intention of lowering the hurdle for our research scientists and their research scientists to work together. And in fact, it's this interaction, I think, is a large part of why we see our work today being successful here. Collaboration is really important to Bayer research. I think that you've heard from all of us here that this collaboration is critical for developing life science research today. We've taken one more step recently in trying to expand our interaction with Mission Bay.
by opening up an incubator space for small companies, sort of standing on the shoulders of the giants of QB3 and what they've done, recognizing this is a great opportunity for Bayer to collaborate with these small companies. And hopefully along the way, we can also help support them as they grow, become successful, and in turn, become part of the Mission Bay community. And I talk about Mission Bay, you hear me using the term community a lot, and I think that it's clear that we do have a community here. And I think that maybe it was either luck or great vision from the people that put this idea into play, that they created an area where we have amazing proximity. They stayed true to the 10-minute walk, which is from my office. Within 10 minutes, I can be at any other scientist's office here in Mission Bay, hopefully having the discussion about another project, another great collaboration we can have for another therapy. So I'd like to close out by just congratulating UCSF on what they've done over the last 10 years and how they become the catalyst to really creating an amazing environment here. And as I look forward to the next 10 years, I couldn't be more optimistic.
Thank you so much, Chris. And let me just end by acknowledging three groups of people. You just heard about the community of scientists, but not yet mentioned is the local community. So in the city and county of San Francisco, I really want to acknowledge, and there's some community members here with us today, we're aspiring to be good neighbors in Mission Bay. And so I really want to acknowledge community members who have partnered with UCSF and the city and county of San Francisco as we've grown Mission Bay and thought about how this development can be an asset to the neighborhood. The second group of people I want to acknowledge, again, looking up, I see a lot of faces. The faculty, the staff, and the trainees at UC San Francisco are the reason why we're the anchor tenant. I haven't heard us referred to as the anchor tenant before. We're pleased to be the anchor tenant. And we do hope that we attract great things to the city and county of San Francisco. So I want to acknowledge all of my colleagues from UC San Francisco who are here with us this morning. And finally, and most importantly, the reason all of us do this is to improve human health. So the patients who have benefited from the work we do here at UC San Francisco, and even more importantly, the patients who will not suffer as a consequence of the work that we have here, those families and those friends who we hope we will help with all of our collective efforts. I'd like to end by acknowledging patients who will be helped by what goes on at Mission Bay, Parnassus, and the rest of our efforts at UC San Francisco. So I want to thank all of you for joining us here today. We'll now have a ceremony.